Hi, Hans from Request for Music here, and I want to do a new video on HJOL for the RFM series that I'm doing. Um, this is part of the Runic series, the HJOL, looks a bit different than the normal RFM modules that I have. The normal RFM modules are in plain purple, and this one has some sort of a scenic background or a different kind of background on it. At least let's show the YOL, and it is an update where I wanted to have an offset, which are the two red knobs in there. At some point, there is something, there are a couple of weird things in there still, and I haven't been able to find out what exactly it is. That is at first that the red thing here in the middle, the red circle, is supposed to turn around. If it doesn't, when you start it, you just click on the LED to make sure that it is selected. The oscillator, it will show you here, and you can just right click on the knobs to return to the default values, which it should have done, but I'm not quite sure why it doesn't. So if you return those to the default value, that circle will run over the screen. And the circle itself doesn't do that much, but it does something as soon as it goes over any of the other circles that we'll put in there. So if I at least put some sound in there, and as you can tell, the sound itself is pretty moving itself already, and that's because there's some reverb in there. So if I take that into wet signal, it's just a plain sine wave, but otherwise it's moving. And I could even bring that up. The noise that you hear is from the reverb, so I can take this up. This was the size of the buffer that was changing. So this would be sort of an average setting for that sound. And I'll switch the ADSR on, which is this here, so that means that it's going to wait for a gate signal. So as soon as I put a gate signal in from the interface, it's now responding to a gate, and that signal is gated before the reverb, so that's why you hear it cutting off that way. Anyway, so this in itself isn't doing that much, but I have a lot of knobs here, and the knobs, as soon as I select one of those knobs, you see that the yellow circle is switching to another point, and it tells you which of the parameters you're working with. So if I take this first one, it says op1 ratio. Actually, those two columns, op1 and op2, are the frequency the FM sort of synthesizers in there. So one column is a sine wave with a ratio with an FM level, so that means that I can change the sound of that carrier, so to speak, by frequency modulating it with another one, and I can make the carrier feedback, or I can get the modulator and feedback that. So if you know how a DX7, for instance, works, where you have a sine wave that you can change by using another sine wave on top, that's actually how HJOL works as well. So that means that if I take the wet off first, and I'll switch the ADSR off, and I'm going to only use one of those operators. So it means I'm going to dial it to this one, because this actually mixes it. And if I dial this way and just take one of those operators out, and let me dial the level a bit back again, you can hear that it's only one sine wave. And obviously I can change the ratio, I can change the bass frequency for the carrier that way. And if I connect a keyboard to it, it will just follow that keyboard, and as soon as I get it out, it's not going to follow. So that's what the ratio does. And then I have an FM level. That means that if I take this up, it will change that sound. If I do a carrier feedback, it gives you a different kind of modulated sound. If I do a modulator feedback, it will not do anything because the frequency modulation wasn't on, but now this changes sound as well. And then I also can do an AM modulation that I can dial up this way as well. And for the rest, if that's not enough, I can fold sounds in on itself by using the minus or the maximum values that I can work with. Actually, that would be more clear if I took a scope. So let me see if I can find the multi-oscilloscope. Let's see where it is. Multi-oscilloscope from Weevil. Let's take that in, and I'll take this output in here. So you can see that, and I'll dial back some of that stuff here. So you see that it's just a normal sine wave that it's controlling. As soon as I take this min value, you see that it's cutting off that bottom part, which makes sure that you get extra harmonics in there, so a sharper sound. And it will do the same with this. So using both of them, you can really define sort of the sound that you work with. So that's sort of a basis that it's working with. And every time when I can click on any of those knobs, you see that the LED or the yellow circle is moving to another LED, because the LEDs, that's what these are for. Those are small lights, and those are connected to the bar on, or the column on this side, where I have an X speed, a Y speed, an offset and a move for the X and the Y, and a size and an influence. And it means that if I have some settings selected, let's say that I select my ratio, for instance, and I can click it on here, but I can also click on any of those LEDs here if I wanted to. If I select that ratio, I can set a size for a circle. So in this case, I can make it larger, and the red dot, which is actually sort of the main oscillating kind of thing that, or the modulator source, is going to I'll dial this back for a while. It's moving on the outside, and at this point it's not doing anything to the sound itself. So that means that if I would move this circle, for instance, I would move it to I need to make sure that I've got it selected, and I'm going to offset it to the side, for instance. And I'm going to take the output out of the main output, just leave it in this oscilloscope so you see what happens. If I dial this up, normally it will go through the side and will do nothing special. It's just a sine wave. As soon as it's over, I can actually set the influence of that circle. And so you'll see that when I go over it, it's changing the frequency now of that, because I had the course or the ratio setting that is changing. So you can see that it's affecting that. So if I do connect this up to my host, you can hear that I'm doing this. If I don't want this this effect anymore, and you can actually see that I'll take it out for a while, or just lower this output level a bit. You see that is indeed affecting the frequency, and with the influence you have a positive side where you can go as high as this, and you can go the other way around, so it will lower the frequency for that. And the amount of influence is what changes it. When it is selected, or when the size is larger than 0, larger than 0, you see that the LED is on, so you can see that this one is indeed set to some size. If I want that gone, that one, I just take the size back and the LED goes out again, so I don't have any influence on that part. if I, for instance, take the frequency modulation level up 1 FM level, you see that it shows in the top there. I can set the size for that. I can move it to the side again or to the other side. It's not that important where you move it. You can do it in X and in Y settings. So a higher setting goes down, a lower setting goes up. So I can put it somewhere there. And I want to set the influence for that so it will affect it. So if I turn this higher and it goes through that, you hear that it's indeed modulating that sound. And for now, yeah, this is just rotating around and it's going through that circle. If I want this circle to move by itself, I have to set the X or Y speed for that circle. So if I dial this up and then also set the move part, it's going to move within a certain range. So that means that when it's going through, because the highest modulation is exactly in the center, it's depending and it's sort of fading off more to the side. So it means that if I set a higher move, it will sometimes go through it and sometimes it will not, affecting that sound. So you could do something like that. And obviously I can do the same for the Y movement. So if I dial this up as well, it's going to go faster in the Y and it's going to move that. It will do something like this. Set the highest setting. And so yeah, you never know exactly when and where and how it's going to go over that circle. And still I can change the size. So that means obviously that then my influence is going to be higher on that sound. So, and apart from that, I can set the influence. So that's basically that for the first operator. I could do the carrier as well. So let's put the carrier in there and change the size, make it large enough, put it to the side somewhere. So I'll put it somewhere here and put the influence up. So something like this. And of course I have this reverb setting, so if I dial that up again, I get very drone kind of sounds, of course. And I only used one now. Let's dial this back to the center so I get both of them and take both of them out to this. Then you can hear the effect of both of those oscillators. And obviously for operator 2 I can do exactly the same thing. So for instance, I've got this and I can actually click on the circle to select it, and sometimes when there's too many circles you won't be able to do anything anymore, but then obviously you can still select them from the top here. And the first LED is actually the moving red dots, so you can even change the X speed and move and offset of that kind of thing. But for the rest, all of the purple knobs on the first column, they are next to each other. So I've got this one first, which was the ratio. I didn't put any selection or any setting in there. Next one will be this level. Then I've got the carrier level, carrier feedback. Then I've got my modulator feedback, so I can do that. And I can actually do the same for the other one. So if I first of all want to take the level of the FM level of the second one, so well, let's do something similar. So let's see what I had for the first. I had it more to the right and I had it full and speed and blah blah blah. I can do it a bit differently and set it more to the bottom, for instance. So I'll take this one and I'll set this size large enough, and I set the Y speed and X speed, but I do the move to the left and the right for that one, so it's going to move that way. And I still need to do the influence. And you will hear that the right channel, if I dial this up a bit, Now the right channel was sort of moving. You had this stereo image of all of those sounds. And let's see what that third one was doing. The third one was just standing still. That was the carrier feedback. So if I take the other one and put this here on the right, I can dial that up to be sort of the same kind of size and offset it to the right part, move it up a bit to be sort of the same kind of thing. And I can always select the other one to see what influence setting I had. So influence somewhere around here, and let's see what that does if I dial it up. Well, and as said, I can use the gate to switch the envelope on, if I have the envelope switched on, it will respond to any gate. So if I use a larger decay and I don't use a sustain and use some release and use my pitch, I can actually play with this sound. I think that the speed for those levels, or for the frequency modulation levels, is a bit too high. So I can change that speed back. And you'll see that it is flipping around at first. It will stabilize. I'm still not quite sure what is going on there. It takes some time to stabilize, and then it comes back to a normal speed sort of. So I can do that. I'm still looking for what it is. As soon as I find it, I will update that. But in the meantime, just forget about all of the strange movements at the beginning. Just wait a while, and it will start, or it will work normally after that. And when you save everything as a patch, it will do it in the normal fashion as it is now, slowly moving. So well, so you can tell that moving over all of those circles really affects the kind of sound that you can get out of this. And combining that with the gate and just normally playing it, you can either use it as sort of a lead instrument, or you could use it for drones. Again, if I just take this out and I don't use the gate and switch this off, it will definitely be usable as sort of a drone synthesized sound in the background. And when you hear more or less of an effect that you want, you have to look for which one is doing that. So, and actually, if I want to check that, if I select one of those circles here, I could actually click on solo, and it will switch all of the others off, and you'll only hear the effect for that one, for that single circle. So now I can hear that maybe the influence is a bit more than I wanted, so I can try and see. This is better already, maybe a bit lower. And actually I can click the other one on as well. So select this one, click it on as solo, and I've got both of them soloed except for, so it doesn't give the effect of the others. This one is selected. I can now set that influence as well. And if I want my solo gone, I just click on the button in front of it, switches off all of those solos, and you get back to the overall sound. Then the final thing that you have is that there's this purple box, two sort of purple boxes on the bottom. First one having 1, 2, and 3, and the other one with a star. Those are outputs for all of the modulation levels that you have set in the in this. The modulation levels are set by the influence and the size and the red thing going across those circles. And that means that if I would take this output, for instance, and show that here, it will show you if I switch it, if I set that on, you will see that's actually moving. It might be better to take the slow scope actually. Let's see if I can find that, the slow scope. I'll put that one in. Put it in front of this. Slow scope is a way of showing you all kinds of modulations and without it going too fast, so that means that you can actually have it in a slower movement and set the range. What you now see is the modulation effect that, or the modulation that is created by all of these values, that of all of the circles that it's crossing. So that ends up in a modulation like this. So that means that if you would want to use a separate oscillator, for instance, and you wanted to change the pulse width of that based on this, you could take this output and this is the level. So if I dial this back, then the level would be lower. It takes a while for this to work. So in this case, this is 0 level, somewhere in the middle. And if I go the one way, it will go above 0, and the other way it goes below 0. So you can see that that works. If, on the other hand, I would take one of the other outputs, 1, 2, or 3 outputs, I can have a look at which of the outputs I want from which of the circles that are active. If I click that on, you see a screen coming up, the output 1 signals, and you see that I'm using at this moment the op1 FM level, the carrier F1, and the level for the operator 2 and carrier feedback as well. So if I just wanted to use the carrier feedback level, I could click that one on and it will only output that, and I can increase the level of this by dialing this knob, and you see that only this is affected. As soon as I click on any of the other ones, they're added to this output. So yeah, depending on where it is, the level might really sort of explode, so I can take this back. But now I've got the combination of both of those levels, that is, or both of those modulations, that is creating this modulation. So this is the result of those both. And for instance, on the second one, if I wanted another one, I could take the output 2 signals, and you can see that those are switched off. And now I could take the just the feedback and the level of that one and put that in here. And let's switch it in a different mode here, so you can tell the differences. Let's switch this one on again, take that levels up a bit. You see that at least there's a difference, and of course there will be some spikes that are approximately at the same point, but it's depend. Oh, did I have both of them set that way? Let's take the other one. So you see that the modulations will be different. So you could use it as a sound source, but you can also use it as sort of a modulation source if you wanted to. So 3 of them are present at this point, so you can use up to 3 sources or get everything out of this. So yeah, that's basically what it is. And again, if you just want to use it for take those out, that one out again, align everything like this. So if I just want to use this and play with it, I'll just take the pitch, I'll take the gate, I'll switch off the ADSR and have those sounds, and give it a bit more reverb and a bit less attack. something like that. And actually I could, because there's also a transpose knob in here where you can go up to 5 octaves down or up. So pretty steep if I wanted to. And a detuning between the first and the second operator. And the filter that's in there with resonance. And by the way, this knob here, or this switch on the top, actually adds them both together as one total signal, because now when it's not switched on, I have operator 1 on the left side, operator 2 on the right side, but the reverb is sort of mixing it all together anyway. But if I don't want that, I just click this and I have sort of a monaural signal going into the reverb, and that still creates sort of a stereo image. And so dial this back a bit and a bit less wet, and something like this. And I can even use a glide. And maybe a no decay, but just sustain. And if I wanted to have some difference between those sounds, I could obviously take, for instance, operator 2 by tuning, sort of. Let's take this back to the return default value of 0, but take the operator 2 and change the size of that circle, so now it will always go on the same level through that circle. But if I just move it to the top somewhere, or move it to the top, I said move it up something like this, the location of the red circle compared to the center will change the amount of modulation apart, or depending on the influence. So something like that. So yeah, I think that sort of covers the kind of things that you could do with HJOL. And this version, I'm still looking for the sort of problems, but probably I will put it in the store as it is right now. So everyone that has already bought this module will have this update with the offset for those circles, so you can put them on different places. It's not going completely outside of that, but obviously you can use the size to change it around, and then the movement with that helps as well. So if I set the movement and the speed for Y, and to not that high a speed, as you see, it settles at some point. And let's change the move, change it slightly higher speed. It's going through that range, and so you can speed can be a bit higher. So you see that it will be affected by entering that circle, and this only takes effect when the red circle goes over that circle. So you get really moving kind of sounds, and which are not really predictable in how they will sound. They are predictable in the way that you place your circles, you move your circles, and you could actually yeah, do some silly stuff. Let's first of all take the size and everything out, and take the speed out. turn to default values, and I could do that for everything. So select the next one, take the size out, take the next circle, take the size out, take this circle, take the size out, that one, take the size out, take the speeds out for everything. So I could actually say that I don't want to affect the ratio in this part. I do want to affect the frequency modulation for both of them. So let's select one and make sure that I don't have any speed. I'll dial it up, and I want to have my settings somewhere on top, and I need to make sure that those other settings are approximately 0 or something. So I'll take it to the top here, and I'll make sure that it's covering most of the area and come almost to the center here. And I'll take the other one for the operator 2 level and do the same. So I'll dial those back, and I'll dial that move to the center somewhere here, and I'll change the size, do sort of the same kind of thing. So make sure that it's somewhere near the center on the x-axis, and dial it to the bottom there. And then the influence is going to affect it, of course. So if I again take this off, you'll hear that, and make this, because now it's going to do that in stereo. Going to take some detuning of the reverb out, so that's going to be a more steady kind of sound, but still the other settings of that reverb is also going to affect the sound. So I've got something like this, and let's take the carrier one and change that as well. So make sort of a leave, because in this thing it's going to modulate two things together. Here's going to do only the one for the carrier. There's going to take the bottom two that is going to affect. So I can work a way through that as like that, by just changing those circles. And maybe take the modulation effects. Oh, yeah, no, sorry, my bad. Was looking at different things. But the oops, wrong one. I've got the wet pretty high up. So yeah, I think that sort of covers what you could do, and obviously you can save all that kind of stuff. So you can make it usable as a lead instrument or as a drone instrument, and because it has all of those complete settings to have FM or actually a double FM synthesizer with a reverb and its exact decay, sustain, release, and multiple modulation sources, it can be pretty effective to have just this single lead in. So I hope that gives you an impression of what it can do, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye bye.